Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have a Washburn BT-2 on the bench. It's a pretty basic, simple guitar, but pretty neat. Seems to got some age on it, but we don't know. Customer came in. He did not pay a lot of money for this. Somehow he acquired it on the cheap. But he said he's got electrical issues. Sometimes the bridge works, sometimes it doesn't. Of course, when I tested it, it was working, but I got into it and let's get to work. I'll show you what I found. So you never know. I mean, it's the same old story. Whenever you go to the dentist, your tooth stops hurting. It's a pretty cool guitar, and it's in pretty good shape. It's got a couple of love taps on it, but nothing to get in a twist over. I don't know what this black tape is hiding. I don't know what that black tape is hiding, but we're taking it off. Needs a cleanup, needs a setup, of course. That's secondary. The first thing we want to address is the electrical issue. Right now, everything is kind of, it seems to want to work. Maybe it will fail while we have it on the bench for the video. Neck. Bridge. You know, of course it's going to work now. Middle. There, it stopped working. Whenever somebody says, "Oh, the bridge wasn't working," or the neck pickup wasn't working, the first thing you got to do is test it like that. And of course, if it's not showing a problem, you move on to this stuff. And what I found was twisted up, mangled wires. The pots are yanked right. This one's completely loose, and somebody tried to tighten it, and it got jammed right against the wall of the cavity. This one is also loose, and the wires are all like mangled up, like somebody tried to do something. And whenever you see that, you know there's going to be a loose wire somewhere. And then I got into the three-way switch. It's got my favorite offshore garbage square box three-way switch. So I'm going to raid my parts bin and put a regular three-way switch in there. I'm pretty sure it'll work. We're going to delve right into it. So basically what we're doing is a rewire on this, and then we're going to string it and set it up. I don't like those square box three-way switches. They are prone, absolutely prone to failure. If it hasn't failed yet, it will. Just as sure as you know, God made little green apples. And the wiring job is suspect too, because there's globs of solder and solder touching other connections that it's not supposed to. You can't pull the switch out. It doesn't want to come out, and it should. Why does it not want to come out? Because it's not supposed to be in there. It's so big that they jammed it into the cavity. My God. My God. Yeah, we're going to fix this guitar right. It is literally jammed in there. Absolutely jammed in there. There's no wire holding it from coming out. It is so oversized for the pocket that it won't come out. It is catching on the wall of the route, and it is wedging itself in there. And I want to get that out to really get a look at this wiring job. Yeah, it's the wood that's holding it. Somebody hammered it in there. No wonder the damn thing isn't working right. All right, I'm going to have to pause while I try to fish this thing out of here. Stand by. This is such a rig job. I mean, it is so bad. There is one wire that's hanging on by one strand, one barely held on strand, and I would be willing to bet that that is probably going to be our bridge pickup, judging by the wiring that comes to it. This would be the other pickup, the blue and the white. And the yellow goes out to the volume pot. Yeah, and it's all wrong coloring too. It's just it's an absolute hodgepodge mess. I'm not going to use that. That is a fail waiting to happen. There's a wire, like I said, barely hanging on by one strand. It's a micro wire and it's hanging on by one strand. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to pull everything out. In fact, what we're going to do is just eliminate this guy right now. There's no reason to even attempt to salvage this switch. It is just a piece of junk. Sorry to be and globs and globs of solder. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's at this juncture, it's best to just stop and start fresh. Just start fresh. I don't know why. That's going to be our pickup wires, I would assume. Or this is our pickup wire. This is a center wire for the switch. What a globbed up mess. Look at the mess on that switch. And it's, of course, yeah, do I need to say more? I'm not going to use that. Let's get it over and de-string it and pull these pickups out and see what the hell is going on in there. Yeah, we'll get this thing put together. No big deal. I'm going to pause while I de-string it and get ready to pull these pickups. So it took a hot minute. I got to put the nut back on. Of course, you know, these older guitars, every time you de-string them, the nut pops out. No big deal. This was a problem. Major failure. They tried to hammer that. They literally had to hammer it in there because I had to pull it out. And if you look really closely in right there where that yellow wire is, there's a whole bunch of chip out inside that cavity where they took a chisel and tried to hammer away some of the meat of the body to make that switch work. Failure. I think this wire harness I can make work. That is probably going to be our bridge pickup. We're going to find out right now. I think this is our neck pickup, and this goes to our volume. And it's going to be super tricky getting this. I also, while we were off camera, to tell you, you never know what you're going to run into. I had to use a spade bit to clearance the hole a little bit deeper so that this switch will pop through the other side and have enough thread showing through to put a nut on, or a round threaded nut. Luckily, there's plenty of wood, and I clearanced it out with a spade bit from this side, thusly. And now there was just enough to catch one thread. I wanted at least 2 or 3 threads exposed so that it grabs enough purchase to tighten up. So off camera, yeah, that's what we went through. I know what all these wires are. I'm going to test these leads, and we're going to clean them up and put new ends and tin all of the new ends. There's stuff here that should be cleaned up and covered, like the red and the white. By the way, everything was just twist tied together. Nothing is soldered. So it's no wonder that he was having electrical failure. Down here in the cavity, I'm going to undo as much as I can and reuse these pots. So I'm going to pull the knobs off. The nut and washer aren't even on that one. Right there. Now, this guy's getting the full Monty today. And we're going to undo all of this and start fresh and rewire it as much as needed. It looks like all the connections down here are okay, but I want to undo this stuff and clean up this gnarled up mess that they have. I just don't like that, and I want it to be clean enough that you can follow, the next guy maybe can follow what was done. So, yeah. I'm going to undo everything from the tone pot and then reattach it, as it were. Let's get the solder iron hot. Because we can, and that's what we're going to do. And by all means, we should be. Because, yeah, damn, it's a mess. I don't understand why all those wires are gnarled around each other like that. And I don't want them to be. I don't want them to be. Got just enough moisture left on that sponge from the last job. Let's see if they cooperate and just desolder and come off. I know you're not seeing everything. Yeah. Okay. I think now we can wait. I think now we can get this back to usable and have it be proper. One is the bridge ground, I believe. Yep, that's my bridge ground. And this is just the jumper from the volume pot. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, what a mess. Really don't understand why they have a wire that has a ground and a lead, because all you really have to do is jump from there to the other one. I'm going to pause quickly while I double check my wiring schematic here. I'm going to wire it the way I would wire it up. I don't know what they were doing here. There's a redundant ground in this wire that doesn't need to be there. Very strange indeed. All right, stand by. I can't even begin to tell you the debacle. Okay, so his complaint was that the bridge pickup wasn't working properly. So in the process of me tracking wires and fixing the cavity in the back, which this should be such a simple wiring project. Somebody had gobs of black tape. The terminal that comes out of the bridge pickup has got, I can't even describe to you just the idiocy here of trying to solder stuff together and then taping it off. I'm going to have to disconnect everything, tap test this pickup and make sure it has a B on it, so it must be a bridge pickup. But somebody at some point has just butchered the wiring on this guitar. And I don't understand it because it's such an easy task. It is such an easy task. So yeah, I got to show this. I mean, you can't even believe it. I can't make this stuff up. Look at that wiring. It's just a glob of who knows what it is. And I don't even trust that they have the right ones coming in and out. What they did was they instead of extending it properly, they capped off the ones that they thought they didn't need, and then they wrapped a whole bunch of black tape around it to its own harness, and then put just a 2-wire lead up to the 3-way switch. Such a fail. I mean, it blows the mind. It boggles the mind. Probably because these holes aren't routed out enough, but there's a right way to do this, and you put, heat shrink on it. So stand by while I try to disseminate what in the hell is going on here. So this is going to get complicated, but I want to show you something. Got a bunch of test leads here. We have fixed our wire harness, and I have tap tested everything with a digital voltmeter. And before you bolt everything in there, and especially considering that we have such a problem with fitment in here, what we're going to do is make sure that everything works before we put it in there. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is use leads, test leads. We're going to hook up to our three-way switch, and then we're going to plug into an amp and test it. I mean, it's really the only way to do it. Ground is green. Yellow are going to be our center position, which will be bridge and neck. Then we have left and right, black to black. That will be should be our neck. Green is going to be ground. This is our other lead for singular pickup, which will be our bridge. I know this looks hairy as hell, but this is the only way to test it without putting it in and then having to take it all back out. It's best to do it now. This is our ground, which is a common ground. Then we plug it in, get some power to it, and we're going to test it. What we're going to do is tap test it. Hopefully all of our leads will stay connected and not come apart. So center should be both. Yep. Tone. Volume off. Yep, that's good. Now we're going to flip over to bridge. Tone and volume are working. Switch over to neck, and everything's working. That's you have to be you have to kind of have a brain like an octopus, because you can see what's going on here. But if you follow what you're doing, you can tap test everything. That way we know when I mount this in there, I'm going to solder everything outside just the way it is. Right? And then I'm going to mount it inside. And since we have very limited space inside here, it's critical that I know what wire is going where before I put it in there, because basically I'm modifying this. I don't know what kind of switch it ever came with. It was probably a micro square switch. I don't have one. I don't like them anyway. And we've had to really modify the wiring harness from each pickup to this, because it was such a cob job. It's the worst I've seen in years. The absolute worst I've seen in years. Now I have it sorted out, and it's going to work great. And these pickups are actually pretty hot, so it's going to play, and it's going to play well. But this is just the electronics part. I'm going to have to do, another video just to do the string and set up and play. But we know where we're at right now. And at this juncture, I'm going to pause. Again, I'm sorry, I apologize, but I can't show you soldering all of this and following this. My head will be in the way, and it's really, I literally have that much room to work with. And I have to make sure the wires are soldered in such a fashion that they're pointing and clocked in the right direction, so that when all that tucks in there, nothing is going to interfere with anything else. Yeah, you never know. I'm gonna in the middle of a video, this is a first. In the middle of a video, I'm gonna pull the camera up before the end of the video and say, you never know what's gonna hit the bench from day to day. So, yeah. I underestimated this job to this client, but that's okay. That's on me. But when we come back, I'll have this soldered up, and that will be mounted in there, and then we'll be ready to move on. Stand by. Okay, in conclusion, I just wanted to point out that this switch is so tight in there. And I'm sure it had a micro square box switch in there originally. I don't like them. I'm not going to use them. I actually put a Les Paul switch, 3-way toggle switch in there. You see how clean now everything tucks and it's out of the way. Now, point of interest, normally you would put the, if the hole is like this, the wire goes through like that. I actually had to wire them like this, tapped onto the top so that they're pointing in this orientation, because the lugs are actually almost right against the inside of the route. No big deal. You just have to be cognizant of it and aware of it when you're putting them back together. Same thing down in the wiring cavity, the control cavity. I wanted to put bigger pots in there, but you can't put a larger pot in there because it hits the side of the route. All that being said, we have a success because we took our time. Now, off camera, elapsed time for all of this wiring was probably 2 hours of my life that I'll never get back, because at every juncture I found more and more and more screw ups. And yeah, that's our bridge position up towards us as you're holding the guitar. Tone, bridge, tone, middle, tone. Yeah, so these pots are still working. Are they in the best shape? Probably not, but I don't have any mini pots in my parts bin right at the moment that I can part with, because I have another job tomorrow that I'm going to need the ones that I have. I ordered them specifically for a different job, but I digress. Fixed. Not only did we fix all of this and fix all of this, but everything that was under here was a debacle as well, and I had to splice and fix and re-solder and re-tin and make the harness correct. But now we are ready to put the cover back on there, right, and the cover can go back on there, and this thing is ready to string and set up. That's going to be a different video. I'm just telling you from now, because just doing what I've done today has been 2.5, 3 hours, just getting all the wiring sorted out, which is so ironic, because this is literally probably the simplest type of wiring that you can have. One volume, one tone, 2 humbuckers. It's about as simple and easy as it gets with a 3-way toggle. But I didn't create the problem, but I can tell you this, I damn sure fixed it. And it is fixed right. Short of, gutting the entire thing and starting from scratch, but I don't think we need to do that. This guitar is going to play. It's going to play really, really well when I give it back to the client. Point of interest, I always say that, it's kind of my thing. It's got Grover tuners on it, really good Grover tuners. These tuners are worth more than the guy paid for the guitar. And he's going to have a little bit of a bill for me for rewiring it and repairing the wiring. Wiring diagnosis, I like to call it whatever you want, but he's going to have a pretty decent guitar. I can tell you that pickup is going to have to come uppy before I even string it. I am happy with the way it came out. The next video, we're going to get the polishing. We're going to reset the nut because the nut popped out when we were taking the strings off. We're going to clean up the entire guitar, and we're going to set it up. Oh, I have to modify I don't know what it is, man. I have a million Fender knobs. The knob that it came with won't work on there. So I think I'm going to have to take an old Fender knob. And I've done this before. I don't like to do it, but I want to put a knob on there for them at least. I'm going to take one of the old Fender knobs I have, and I'll show you how I do it. That will work. Leave it to Gibson. You know, that's a Gibson switch. Leave it to Gibson to have three different ways to put a knob on that damn thing. So, just to end this video, I'm going to show you. This is a Fender. You can see it's got a cross. That's for a 5-way blade switch. I'm going to try to drill this out enough that it will actually screw onto there. I've done this trick before. Some of you may have seen it. I don't remember the size, but we're gonna learn it together. Pretty sure if I do it that size, come here, you. We'll just drill out the center a little bit. It may work, it may not. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. All we got to do is drill out the center. Maybe a little bigger. Yep. I always forget what size drill bit it was. All it's got to do is catch the thread on there. At least there will be a knob on there. A button. A little bit bigger, really? You got to get it started, and it's not like you're threading it. It's not like you're threading it. Yeah, a little bit bigger. No. Watch. The next drill bit will be too big. Can't believe I'm showing you guys this. Such a hack. Such a hack. I've done it before and it has worked. Just so there's a knob on there. And just like that, Yahtzee. It'll grab, it'll hold. Is it perfect? No, but it's better than just having a stud sticking up. I mean, really, it doesn't get a lot of abuse, you know. So you got a Fender knob on a Gibson 3-way switch. Because, I don't know why, but Gibson has like 4 different ways to put those knobs on there. Between Gibson and Epiphone and cheap Epiphones and good Gibsons and custom shop Gibsons. They're all goddamn different. I don't know why. I don't know why. Sometimes I get sidetracked, but you never know what's going to hit the bench. We've got the wiring sorted out. This guitar is well on its way to being a player again. And by the way, these friggin' pickups are hot. We'll talk soon. Remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. And if you feel like it, share.